Everyone, Joseph Varghese here. Welcome to Rules for Success. Rules for Success is our podcast. Go to rulesforsuccess.com. Access this podcast, a summary, and even we'll have there a mind map of this experience. Rulesforsuccess.com. I'm here with a friend of mine, Phyllis Song. Phyllis is a master of leverage. She's a master of engaging virtual assistants in the Philippines, other parts of the world. She's an absolute master of this. And she, over the course of building this business for the past several years, she's empowered several VIP partners to focus on their zone of genius, their strengths, while delegating, outsourcing everything else, whether it's hiring a chief of staff, whether it's hiring a project manager, whether it's outsourcing someone to do social media postings, whatever you want to do. She's a master at, she's a master of systems. She's a master at also taking philosophies, frameworks, Tony Robbins and Gino Wickman and Dan Sullivan's work, just taking it all together, building frameworks so her team's educated and inspired to work, knowing the why, to help you stay in your zone of genius. Phyllis, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast. I'm really, really honored, to sharing, some of the success point I have and, and wanted to impact and inspire more people to be able to, dare to play bigger, right?
Yes, that's it. That's our tagline, dare to play bigger, right? And dare to play bigger is just that. It's just recognizing it's all a game and there's opportunities to build team out in your game, find other team members, find other virtual assistants. I've been working with virtual assistants in the Philippines for about 15 years now. My main virtual assistant has been with me for 9 years. We have a great relationship. I've hired others, and it's been highly impactful for me to have members of my business who have ownership of my business, who are committed to the business, to scaling and progressing and helping our clients to as well create more impact in the world. How did you get involved with this? And I know part of your story you shared with me had to do with your mom and some of the things she was doing, but how did you get involved with the world of delegation, leverage? And I want to hear all about this. We'll talk about your family and what things you're doing as far as leverage and traveling and all of that. But how did this all start for you, Phyllis?
Well, the way I started my virtual, the way I started working with virtual assistants is because I have a lovely husband, right? And I'm the gopher, right? Honey, can you do this? Honey, can you do that? Honey, can you do this? Honey, can you do that? And I was quote unquote kind of like the operation manager and the wife, right? So I get hand down with a lot of things that we need to do and get done. And as at that time, we were small business owners, right? So you have very limited budget, and hiring local employees take a long time. It takes about at least a good week, like going through the proper process. And a lot of time, they fail, and there's a lot of limitation and all that. So it's like, man, there must be a better way of getting this done, right? In a cheaper way, I can do more, right? I can, play bigger. And one day, truth is, I lost my credit card, and I called the credit card company, and then I hear that they have an accent, and I was like, wait, like, where are you from? And they're like, oh, they're trying to sweet talk me. I was like, "Wait, for real, like, I really need to know where you're from." And they say, oh, well, actually from Philippines. I was like, oh, really? Like, you work in Philippines, but you get my social security number and you are talking to me right now? Is that what it is? And she said yes. And I was like, ah, the light bulb moment. I was like, if the big company can do that, I could do it too. And that was about 12 years ago. So I started going online and say, how can you hire somebody remotely from another country, right? Using it in United States. And ta-da, then I figure out, there's this thing called the remote worker, the virtual assistants. And ever since then, I just love it. Never, gone back the traditional route.
Awesome. It makes all the difference. I'm glad you had that breakthrough right there. It's an opportunity, an aha moment. Absolutely fantastic. And you build an organization, and I'm guessing you have a couple hundred virtual assistants who work for maybe more for different clients. You pair up and so forth.
Yes.
Yeah. And how
sorry. How my business really started is I work with Tony Robbins Platinum Partners, and one day they were like, "Hey, we really wanted to hire a virtual assistant because everybody, whether you're a single solo entrepreneur or a big organization, you should have virtual assistant implanted so that you can maximize, right, your productivity, your efficiency and everything." That's what Kiefer Rutzi was saying in one of the Business Mastery. And then ever since then, everybody was coming to me because I was offering a talk and say, hey, this is how you do it, A, B, C, D, E, thinking that everybody know how to do it. And then the plus is like, no, we don't know how to do it. We don't know to learn. It's a lot of work, right? I'm just gonna tell you what I need, and then you find me somebody. And ever since then, just like you said, I have helped about more than 1,000 people, business owners, find virtual assistant, whether it's building a single person or a whole team. The biggest one we have done is about 50 virtual assistant in their business, so
Incredible.
that it will be fully operational, just with virtual assistants. So it's been a beautiful journey.
Amazing. And having a virtual assistant is incredible because my experience has been, especially the Philippines, they have great values. They come from
Yep.
service, and they're really they take accountability, and that's
Yes.
very, very valuable. And it's very fairly affordable being able to hire overseas this way, specifically in the Philippines. I've hired elsewhere too. Just the nature of just communication is very, very invaluable, I found. So it's awesome you've been able to help a lot of plat partners. People may know, listening to this, plat partners is like a VIP community in the Tony Robbins ecosystem. I happen to lead a
Yeah.
community in New York City called the New York Power Team. We're the largest Tony community, probably in the East Coast, here in New York. In the East Coast, we run, and we have other subsets to Bass Brigade. So we have a lot of people in our community who've done that work. The Plats happen to be kind of a community that travels with Tony. They go on trips, and they mastermind, and they have these fun adventures. And a lot of them happen to be business owners. Phyllis, why don't we talk about what it means to be a business owner, right? So some of my first training around this years ago came through a gentleman named Dan Sullivan, who
Yes.
started a company called Strategic Coach. And
Yep.
then he's inspired some of the work of Gina Wickman, who's a student of his, who wrote
Yes.
a few books, Rocket Fuel and Traction. And he's also got another book about leverage and teams as well. What does it mean to you? What does a business owner's visionary mean to you versus somebody who's an operator integrator? And those are two separate roles in an organization. But what does that mean to you? I'm curious.
Yeah, the truth is, at the very beginning, I have a really hard time running my business, right? There's just so many gray area because we're not built to be a business owner. We're just good at something and we want freedom, and we started a business thinking that this is all cool and fun. And the company's getting bigger and bigger, and I was like, okay, I'm losing track, right? That's why I got the book Traction. Like, what's going on? How can I have traction? Then I realized, wow, a business owner usually are visionary, right? And to me, visionary means just like me, I have a ton of ideas. I love connection, but I'm very
I love
high level thinker, right? I'm not really into the detail as much as I used to anymore. I'm just all really high level, and I have a hard time executing because I'm excited, and there's so many other projects I want to run. And then I also learned from them that about integrator, right? People that can really do the work, right? Get detailed checklist, SOP, and the most important thing is process it, implementing it the right way. And ever since I really learned about those two, it was huge because ultimately visionary is the business owner, right? What overseeing, big picture. And then now I have, Monique, who's also my virtual assistant. She's my COO now. She had worked with me for 12 years so far. And she is my integrator. And so, she's kind of like the person, it's almost like the business operator, but, she's the business
this.
operator for me, right? Anything I want, she execute. Anything I want, she execute. If she can't execute, she asks me back, hey, what am I missing that I need? Right. Then I tell her, and then she execute it again. And now my business just blossom. We move so much faster because I don't have to struggle in the business operation side. I can be creative and test out a lot of different things and figure out what's the one thing that works. And then she's just focusing on implementation, making sure the KPI is running, making sure that we have the scorecard, right? We have the right people, right seat, so she execute all that. And then obviously then we build the business, kind of like, kind of like umbrella style. So
Amazing. Very, very well said. And there's some ideal examples of this in the world. Like if you think about Apple, the company, you've got
yep.
you've got Wozniak, and you also have Steve Jobs. And
Yep.
Jobs was the visionary and Woz was the integrator. Same thing goes for Microsoft. You've got Bill Gates and you had Ballmer. And any great company that's scaled and compounded, it's got into billion-dollar status. Typically, there are those two elements of it. So it's very well that you're able to see this. It's an extraordinary mindset to be a business owner. In fact, in Success Circles,
Yes.
community I lead, we have typically two main groups of people who participate in our program. One happens to be operators, one happens to be owners. The owners like to be partnered with other owners, basically having daily huddles one-on-one where they model each other's strategies. The moment I connect an owner with an operator as accountability momentum buddies, 10x partners, what happens is that the owner starts slowing down. They start overthinking their business, and they're not able to speed things up as effectively as they could. And speeding things up means thinking in terms of joint ventures, partnerships, other ways of scaling, getting into other verticals, things of that sort. The great thing about hiring a virtual assistant, or even a chief of staff, as you mentioned, you have a great chief of staff, is that you can give all those tasks to your team, to those individuals, have SOPs written and so forth, or have the chief of staff create those SOPs. So the business is able to run automatically. So your mind's focused now on being a business owner.
Yep.
Pretty extraordinary, pretty extraordinary. I'll share this with you also. One of my breakthroughs with this for myself is that I started making Tuesdays my owner day. So Tuesdays, I travel, I take vacations, I watch plays, I watch movies, I go to the park, I do all the things that a business owner does. So I'm not thinking in my business, I'm thinking on my business and allowing the creative juice to flow through me in ways where I can really look into how I can scale. So I'm playing both roles in my business currently. And having a team, of course, having virtual assistants has helped me step more and more into that owner category. Very, very, very powerful. And can you give some examples maybe of people you've helped over the years, maybe one person you've helped over the years that's given them access to scale faster and better?
Yeah, absolutely. Her name is Till. She's a plat, and now she's a lion, in the Tony Robbins world. She's actually also happened to be my very first client. In the very beginning, we already go really big. She already won 6 virtual assistants, and now she have about 30 or 40 with us. And it was beautiful because they have a seller financing company, right? Like a real estate seller financing company. But there's a lot of detail work that needs to be done, like checking up on billing, right? Making sure that the contract is filled out, right? Social media, sales support, right? Just technically everything. And they were initially have about, I would say, like 20 employees. And then at the time when we were, like fully integrated, they only have 5 employees left. And then everybody else were virtual assistants. And imagine, right, the price for it is technically one local employee right now is equated to about 3 to 4 virtual assistants. So they save like tons of money, right? First off, just by cutting out all the fads. And then I would say like the work ethic for for virtual assistant is it's a little bit stronger than the United States, I would say. Right? So the productivity went up, and then with our training, we like you said, we instill a lot of Tony Robbins training. So like the state, the emotion state of all the employees were always like very high. So it allowed them to push their business so much further. And we're just feeling like, oh, this is such a beautiful like testimonial for us, because they grow a successful business, but only with 5 local employees, and everybody else was just virtual assistants. And they have the lowest like a rate of like debt collection, and a higher success rate, because we managed to use virtual assistant, and we managed to touch every single client now. Because when you're using a local employees, a lot of time you want to rush them through because they're expensive. Hey, can you make it faster? Can you do more? Can you do more? And ultimately they have less time, but they have way more things to do. So things are leaking out from the from the bottom of the bucket. But we virtual assistant because they're cheaper, so they can focus on one task and one task only. And that really allowed them to, really have less broken chain, right? And improving the efficiency and effectiveness very, very well.
Amazing. You mentioned a few things here just now. Lions are basically a top group with Tony Robbins organization. There are a handful and a couple of handfuls of them. One of my mentors happens to be in that category as well also. And you mentioned, the nature of chains, for example, basically having SOPs, having value chains. As you're hiring people, assigning them a task or set of tasks, following them specific guidelines is very useful. And it's just a fact when you're scaling a business, it's important that you start documenting these things. And that can be done. I'll mention this quickly, and I'll mention this later in the conversation. If anyone's interested in Phyllis's work, we have a site set up called outsource.vip, and you'll have an access by filling out the form there And working with Phyllis, you'll have access to me, where we'll have a one-on-one session where we'll talk about designing SOPs for you and your business. And one of the core parts of our program, Success Circles, is that it's called Momentum Buddy Action Program. It's a means to pair owners with other owners together. So we'll connect you in our community as my gift to you for 2 weeks. You can experience Success Circles and our 10X program out of that. And that's specifically if you go through outsource.vip to access Phyllis' work. I'll mention this later in the conversation too as well. Okay, so awesome. I love the case study, which you just shared just now. And you mentioned, I'm sure people too in the background listening to this as well. Is there a concern? What's the advantage to someone in the Philippines being hired? And I know the answer because I've been hiring in the Philippines for 15 plus years now. What's the advantage to someone in the Philippines being hired through you and being a virtual assistant versus finding a job locally in their community? What's their advantage to connecting with you?
Yeah, there's quite a few things. The very first one that usually people want to come working with us is obviously convenience, right? They are allowing to work from home, right, instead of going out. In Philippines, the traffic is really, really bad. So I actually managed to meet with somebody that travel 8 hours a day, 4 hours going there, 4 hours coming back,
Yes.
just to have a local job. So I was like, wow, I mean, travel is your whole life technically. So that's one. Second thing is they talk about this toxic environment in Philippine workplace. It's very toxic. People, wanted to pull you down. People talk bad about you. I actually help heal quite a few virtual assistants who have PTSD from work. That's
Wow.
how harsh the environment is. So when they come in, right, we instill them with mindset, Tony Robbins, right? So at the end, they really see themselves better and they have more confidence. And ultimately, that is also the byproduct of clients really like them, because if they have confidence, they will speak up. They have confidence, they'll smile more, right? They have better emotion state. They will be able to better serve the clients, right? And the third thing is obviously we pay really well for them compared to local. Even we have a professor that working for us, right? We actually pay more than them working for a college as a
Yes.
professor. So
Yes.
they really love that, and we're very pro single mom and like moms who have kids, because again, growing up, I don't really have moms, so it's almost like fulfilling my dream, right? So we're very flexible with other moms too, to allow them to be able to take care of their kids and still work from home and make really good money, right? So that way, they can really live really quality life. So anybody that's hiring virtual assistants, I just want to tell you that you're not hiring cheap labor. You're not doing any slavery per se, because sometimes that is like what is in the mind. The truth is, because of currency and where the status of their country, the money that you pay them, they make, again, like I said, make more than like the real professor or an accountant, or if they
Yes.
work in a government, they make way more money working for you remotely, right? At their own home than working with anybody locally. So
Yes. And to chat at that point, a couple of things. My main virtual assistant, 9 years with me, his wife's a physician. My wife's a physician. He makes, I believe he's at a point now where he makes more than his wife by working for me. And his wife's a physician and she works very, very, very hard. And it's just the nature of the standard of living in this country and
yes.
what they're able to generate this way. When I last spoke to you, Phyllis, you also gave me another example. You mentioned to me that one of your top members of your team, they they would abandon their kids in the Philippines so that they would work in either Malaysia or Singapore as a babysitter,
Yes.
watching someone else's children while their own children were left behind. And what you
Yes.
shared with me, and I've seen this too also in the past too, about other clients, copywriters, people I've worked with who are in those locations who are doing exactly that, simply because bringing some of the Philippines to Malaysia or Singapore, given the standard of living, that's just effective. And what you're providing there is better because now they have access to be with their children at home in the Philippines while being a mom, being with their kids and working from home in a very safe environment on a computer that's locked down, all those things, and working for you. Is that accurate?
Yes, yes, that's very accurate. The truth is, my mom actually owned a domestic helper agency in Singapore. So I didn't really connect the two, but I was growing up around Filipino since I was born, right? They raise the kid, and I literally see them like missing their children, but they have a 5-year contract, right? And their goal is, okay, I'm gonna finish the 5 years, and I'm gonna make enough money, and I can go home, and we have a better lifestyle. Then the kids will just kind of get thrown to like cousins or family to take care of them. But again, I'm a product of kind of like no parents, right? So there's a lot of like insufficient in me that I feel like not enough, not love, you know. And I know that their kids feel the same way because oh, how come my parents are not with me, right? And that's why I really love like what I do, which is helping them find a job so that they can work from home, still make really good money. Like they're not sacrificing financially, and be able to and then that their kids can be around them. It's almost like reliving my dream over and over. That man, I wish my mom is with me right during that
Yes.
time. But again, in Philippines, unless they know how to do it. If not, yeah, you will see them in United States as a nurse. Go to cruise ship. Cruise ship attendants. Like, I mean, you can
Yes.
see Filipino everywhere. In the immigration, they actually have a lane called overseas foreign worker. Like literally
Wow.
a lane. They are, like with us, it's like local, right?
Yes.
Foreigner, but they have one that is like, if you guys consistently going out, this is the lane for you.
Is this in Singapore, you mean? Is that right? The overseas
This is in
lane?
Philippines.
Oh, the Philippines. Got it.
This
Understood.
lane is in Philippines because majority of the Filipino, they go overseas to work.
Yes.
And
Yes.
but
Yeah.
my mom obviously have a lot of Filipino coming to Singapore to work
Yes.
as full-time nannies, to help with, because Singapore is a very expensive country to live in, and usually both parents has to work. So
Yes.
then they will hire a nanny and raise their children, which is
Wow.
again, it's a very interesting culture, I would say, because then again, the same thing, the kids grow up actually without parents, just with the maid most of the time. So I still
Yeah.
like the US lifestyle where I'm kind of forced not to have a maid. So I have to raise my children myself so I don't feel the gap, right?
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, yeah, they're all very interesting culture, so
It
but
is.
yeah, I love to help them. Yeah.
Amazing, incredible. Yeah, and I'm sure your mom had done great service for them, her team, the people she brought on board, and then also you learn from that too as well, and you see access to help those people perhaps even stay in the Philippines while raising their kids, while having these jobs where they're able to get paid very well. Also, it's interesting you mentioned this too. My parents came from South India to this country,
Mm.
United States, back in the '60s, and there was a huge community of Filipinos as well as people from Kerala, where my mom came from, who came to this country as nurses. There was such a big demand for nurses in this country, and they had never thought about nursing being as supportive and that it could pay as well as it did. And so we have lots of Filipino nurses and Indian nurses, and over the years, and really making an impact in this country doing just that. And it's just understanding where there's a need in certain countries and certain
Yes.
roles. There's a need, and right now in this country, and I believe also, and I've met Tim Ferriss over the years. He and I have connected a
Mm.
few times. When the 4 Hour Work Week came out in 2007,
Yep.
he basically wrote chapters about the benefit of hiring virtually, scaling a business, and he made that a reality. And I believe that book and other organizations. John Jonas also is someone else I've connected with over the years, and it created a whole movement in this country toward leveraging outsourcing and really focusing once again on your zone of genius, your strengths, where there's a lot of flow, right? And it's
Yep.
so easy as a business owner to do everything, and things really slow down when we do everything versus just staying in your lane, recognizing your strengths. And all of you on this conversation, so if you're watching this, if you sign up, go to outsource.vip. I will help you also navigate, figure out your strengths. When you know what your strengths are, whether it's using DISC or you're using StrengthsFinder or any of the choices out there, basically stay in your lane. All you got to stay in your lane, stay in your zone of genius.
Yep.
And
Mm-hmm.
there's flow there, there's abundance there, there's clarity there, and just figure out how to outsource, delegate to Phyllis and her team all the things that you don't want to do. And I promise you, you'll have more fun, more fulfillment. You'll be in the zone, celebrating life more often, maybe doing what I'm doing now, taking an owner day off, or maybe even traveling, taking 3-4 months off a year to be able to really travel and live your dreams.
Yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And Phyllis, is there a tip you can offer our community? So we have a secondary podcast called Momentum Tips. Basically, these are
Yes.
2-minute tips we offer to our members and goes out there. Is there a tip you can offer our community, our members, that'll enhance their lives, perhaps even around outsourcing, leverage, delegation? What would you say?
Yeah, I would say, figure out what is your rate, right? Like, what I learned is if you want to make $1 million, right, and only work 40 hours a week, that means you need to produce $500 an hour, right? $500 an hour. So is that the mark for you, right? Then you start delegating. If it's something that, net you more than $500, do the work, right? If it's something that's less than $500, don't do it. Right. Then now you're starting to have a line, right? Are you living above the line or are you living below the line? And then start to write them down and then starting to delegate them out. I feel like, I've been doing this for years, and this really allowed me to really, live on my strength zone most of the time, which is happy, right? Effective, and I'm in my juicy flow instead of going, down on the survivor mode kind of deal, like being the business owner in a reactive mode, like solving the issue, solving the problem. And most important thing is doing the things that you do not like to do, and at the same time it does not make you money. And trust me, on the first 10 years, that was me, right?
You too.
I cannot hit $1 million even if I work 80 hours, right? If working hard is the solution, everybody will be a millionaire by now, right? But working smart, right? And then for me to finally learn it and execute it, my business here, in less than a year and a half, we hit $1 million without me even realizing it, because I delegate out 90% of my tasks. I only focusing on things that really it's high value for me. So if that is you right now, you are well on your way and you're a happy business owners, right? If not, then you might have some friction and some glitchiness, and you just have to work on, how do you delegate out, it's the who, not the how, right? Who are the
Yes.
somebody that can, how you remove those stuff so that you can still get the same result just without doing the work.
Incredible. You mentioned a great resource just now, Who Not How. It's a book by Benjamin Hardy. He's a student of Dan Sullivan. You mentioned Dan's name before. Who Not How. Also, 10x is easier than 2x. And Phyllis can help you 10x your business simply from having you focus on your strengths, your zone of genius. It's not that difficult.
Yes.
As great momentum tip just now. Thank you for that extraordinary momentum tip. Momentumtips.com for more momentum tips. That tip is extraordinary. It is that simple. It's recognizing what your value is, what your worth is, what it'll take to scale. If you are looking to build $1 million business, how many hours will it take to get there to enhance that? And what if you could delegate all the things you don't necessarily enjoy doing to team members, including maybe even hiring a fractional CFO, hiring a bookkeeper, having somebody out there who's actively measuring these things for you. So once a day you're looking at maybe a spreadsheet or having a conversation, on Skype or Slack, just to look at those numbers. So that you're scaling effectively. Very cool. Some great tips. If you can go back, Phyllis, and offer advice to either your 18-year-old version of yourself, or maybe somebody who's 18 years old now at the start of their career, just becoming an adult, who's out there to create an impact in the world, what's something you would offer that person or offer yourself?
Yeah, I think two things. Really figure out what do you really love doing? What is your real passion? Not just what can make you money. Because when you have the real passion, money will just come. It's just, unavoidable. And then the second thing is ultimately, model after success, not failure, not experience, right? Really learn from what other successful people are doing. Be really curious on what makes them successful and just model after it. So in that way, you'll be successful. I love what you talk about the Tim Ferriss book. Without that book, I wouldn't be where I am today. I would still be working hard and feel stuck and struggle. But just because of that book and model after what he said, it opens me up for more time, and then learning more and and executing more, right? But more higher quality work instead of just more busy work. Tim Ferriss also talk about this. Busyness is a form of laziness.
Yes.
Because you're so busy so you can think, and thus you don't improve.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very well said. It's modeling other people. I love that quote from Tim Ferriss too as well. Also, that's also impacted my life as well. And it's thinking out of the box, right? Thinking what's possible, having conversations with people who are who are big thinkers, you're being in proximity to those people, whether they're in a mastermind, whether they're plat partner, whether you're a member of Success Circles,
Yes.
our peer-to-peer community we've been running for 20 years now, people with clients around the world. It's modeling someone's success strategies. We often make it difficult, and you'll see that most of those people who are successful, who are scaling, who are creating levels and levels of impact, what they're doing is they're masters of leverage. They're masters of delegating.
Yes.
And they're masters of creating team. And
Yep.
I love team. The acronym is together, everyone achieves more. So building a team after your business is not that difficult. Connect with Phyllis.
Yes.
And if you go to outsource.vip, as I mentioned, you'll have a few bonuses. We'll also help you clarify your strengths. We'll help you look into your systems, your business, things you can specifically leverage working with her. And on top of that, as a bonus, if you do work with Phyllis, we'll provide you 2 weeks out of our 10x Momentum program. If you go to 10xmomentum.com, you'll learn more about that program. It's one of our core programs in Success Circles. We basically help owners become better owners. That's a bonus you'll have from going through that outsource.vip portal, connecting with Phyllis there directly. That's about it. This is about having more fun too. Our tagline, as Phyllis mentioned before, is dare to play bigger. Dare to play a bigger game. When you realize it's all a game, every day is a game, every quarter is a game, it's more fun. It's just a game. And it's just about bringing the right players on this game with you who can help you win, so you're making more money and creating more impact in the world. Phyllis, any final words you have for our audience?
I just want to say life is really short. Family is really important. Last year I lost my father-in-law, and the what if, could, should, would, everything comes out. And I just want to, like, acknowledge all of you that, I know you work really hard. If you haven't really figured out the way to work smarter, now is the time. And delegation is definitely great. Join Joseph on what he's doing is amazing, right? Accountability is also huge, because a lot of time, because we are technically know what we do, but we might not do it because we're lack of accountability too. But once again, thank you so much for inviting me to the podcast. I really enjoyed it. And again, life is short. Do it, and do it the way that you want. For me, I want my impact, my income. I still want my time and my identity. So I want it all. And how do I want it all? I do it all through virtual assistants. So.
I love it. Impact, income, time, and identity. Absolutely. You can have it all. Yes. I believe the game I play is having it all. And having it all is just having a conversation and seeing what's possible for yourself, modeling somebody else, and also being willing to get support. And check out outsource.vip, fill out the survey. It'll go directly to Phyllis, and we'll keep track of that too as well. And you'll get access to one of our top partners in our community Success Circles, and access this entire podcast, the summary and links and mind map at rulesforsuccess.com. This has been a pleasure. Thank you, Phyllis, for being with us today. And we will see you soon at rulesforsuccess.com. Thanks so much.